September 1st, in Brooklyn, New York, Louis Delsarte was born. According to the Delsarte website, Delsarte's parents were friends with artists and entertainers from the Harlem Renaissance, like that of Lena Horne, Count Basie, Duke Ellington, and Langston Hughes. Back then, it wasn't called the Harlem Renaissance. It was called the New Negro Movement, after the 1925 anthology edited by Elaine Locke titled The New Negro. Delsarte was exposed to jazz, operas, musicals, and the blues. This early exposure to various artistic expressions and practitioners of these expressions would leave its imprint on Delsarte and later influence his voice as an artist. Right now, there's not a whole lot of background information on Delsarte online other than his work and exhibitions, so I've had to jump around a bit to piece together the little there is. So in this episode, my focus will lean heavily on his work. Delsarte grew up in a middle-class household and was raised by two educators. According to a recent article in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, Delsarte's father also ran a day camp for youths, which was once attended by Earl G. Graves Sr., the publisher of Black Enterprise magazine. His interest in art was encouraged and nurtured by his mother, and by the age of 8, he was taking classes at the Brooklyn Museum. A little later, he attended art classes at the Hans Hofmann School of Art. In a New York Times interview, Delsarte had said, "Growing up in Brooklyn in the 50s, I drew constantly, everywhere I went. I had a sketchbook with me, sketching people on buses, trains, subways." Delsarte attended George W. Wingate High School in Brooklyn, a school that opened in 1956 and was named after George Wood Wingate, a general in the Union Army during the Civil War. From Brooklyn College, Delsarte received a certificate in fine arts education. He earned his bachelor's degree in fine arts at Pratt Institute and his master's degree in fine arts at the University of Arizona. He has taught painting and drawing at several universities, including Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia. In the Atlanta Journal-Constitution article written by Shalia Poole, artist, friend, and retired professor emeritus of art and art history at Spelman College, Arturo Lindsay, said of Delsarte's work, "Louis absorbed all that ashe, a Yoruba term for life force, of people and gave it back to us." And Lindsay should know. The Panamanian-born artist and art historian conducted scholarly research on African spiritual and aesthetic retentions, rediscoveries, and reinventions in America, and allowed this research to inform his own artistic works. Lindsay said, "He was such a phenomenal colorist. I could give a lecture on color theory, period, just using 1/4 of one of his paintings. If Langston Hughes was the poet of the people, then Louis Delsarte is the people's painter. He was a badass painter." I actually posted one of Lindsay's paintings on the Whole Art Nebula Instagram feed, which can be found at the Whole Art Nebula. The title of the painting is "Dear Lord, Why Did Latasha Have to Die?" Of course, I posted works by Delsarte as well. According to the article by Poole, Lindsay and Delsarte met at a party in Stamford, Connecticut at the home of Rachel Robinson, the widow of the baseball great Jackie Robinson. Rachel was a collector and advocate for African American artists, and both Delsarte and Lindsay were seen as the next generation of artists. Delsarte's paintings have been described by critics as being of an illusionist style, notable for their complex layers and rapid strokes using bold color. His approach to his work usually included over 10 to 12 sessions, at times laying the canvas on the floor, then working it vertically again, applying colors from every direction, embracing the chaos and celebrating the abstraction. He has exhibited his work in several solo shows, mostly in New York, but also in other galleries around the country, including the California African American Museum in Los Angeles in 1991, and the African American Museum in Wichita, Kansas in 2005. In 2010, Delsarte's 129-foot mural titled Dreams, Visions, and Change, the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial Mural, was dedicated at the Peace Plaza in Atlanta, Georgia. According to Pohl's article, he's been described by friends as being a quiet and gentle man with a wry sense of humor. And in the Time interview, Delsarte said, "I try to work towards peace, to say that art is the meaning of love, that living on earth is a spiritual quest." I believe this is the statement that Delsarte embodied. In the same interview, he said, "I try to elevate the spirit of man and the spirit of humanity." On May 2nd, 2020, Delsarte died at the age of 75.